I am so excited to be here. First, I want to say thank you for you bringing up the issue of our Native American people. It's extremely important. Our Native American community is extremely disenfranchised. They feel like they have no representation, that they have no access to their leaders. A lot of them are so in contact with their tribal councils that they are not really paying attention, and I think it's by design, by our federal government, to everything that is happening around and the impact that it's having on them. One of the most significant meetings I had, and I ended up crying, was talking to the Iowa tribe and to the ladies, and they were telling me the amount of discrimination that they are facing with the medical system. Not only that, but the treatment and the racial slurs that they have to hear while they're getting treatment, and they have to just shut up in order for them to make sure that their kids actually have care. And I ended up that meeting and I was just bawling. Because it was just like, this is not what we signed up for when this country was started. We have to be, I think that out of all years, and I'll talk a little bit about myself, but I think that you got me started on something that I feel very passionate about, and it's that we have one of the most beautiful countries in the sense of the liberties that have been afforded to us as a country. Just yesterday was 9/11. And I don't know about you guys, but I will never forget. I was dropping off my son. I was in my car. I had a little blue-green Honda Accord, and I had just dropped Eric at daycare. And I was driving to my job at Wichita State, and I listened on K-Love that a tower had been hit by an airplane. And my family is from New York. And I ran in and told everybody, hey, something happened with one of our towers, something happened, an airplane flew in. And then when Sue Worley, may she rest in peace, put the TV on, I will never forget the silence that filled the room when the second airplane hit. And it's something that so many years later, it just reminds us that freedom is not free, right? Mm-hmm. And just when we didn't think that something like this could happen in our own territory, in our own turf, we're not used to these things. It happened right here, and may we never forget our police officers, our firefighters, and all the people that made sure that justice was served, and that we lost so many lives in our country. And at the same time that we have all these beautiful things to celebrate about our country, we cannot forget the glory that happened in this country. The fact that this land was the land of the Native Americans, and that people came here with the ideals of freedom, and then in that process, some way, somehow, things got mixed up, and they decided to pick up my great-great-great-grandmother from West Africa and bring her in as a slave. Just 100 years ago, us women were able to start voting. And for people of color weren't even counted as a whole human being when we founded this country. And I think that this year specifically, we're in the intersection of 1918 and 1968. Mm-hmm. And it just seems that this country and the people of this country need to start talking about our broken history. We cannot talk about the glory of our country without healing the wounds of the past. And if we don't do that, we're going to keep on having 1968 and 2020 repeated over and over and over again because there's so much pain. And it just seems that now we're so divided. And I'm not going to say now more than ever, because there's been times in our history where this has happened before. But I think that when we were driving over here, I was talking to my two best friends, Ryan and Nicole, and I was saying, isn't it interesting that as a human race, we keep forgetting our history and we keep repeating it. Mm-hmm. We keep forgetting that, the book that I believe in and the God that I worship, sent his son to die for my sins, and that's just my faith. I'm not going to put that faith on any of you. And the easiest thing that happened was that when Jesus came on this earth, according to my tradition, he said, love God above all else and love people like yourself. It's that easy, right? It's that easy. And for some reason, we have forgotten to love each other. Just because the color of our skin may be different, or because our language may be different, or because the person that we love may be different, or the way that we worship may be different, why is it that we have found it okay not to share love with each other? And what's happening this year, out of all years, is that for the last 3.5 years, we have been living under leadership that has been less than kind and has emboldened people. And please make no mistake, what we're seeing and the negativity that we're seeing is based on fear. It's based on loss. And it's nothing but the cries of individuals that feel that are losing something. And the antidote to the fear and the rhetoric that we have going on right now across our country is not anger. Because if we respond in anger, we're only feeding that dark wolf, right? We have to feed the white wolf. We have to feed the wolf of kindness. We have to make sure that we starve that negativity. So it puts people like us in a really interesting position. You see, it would be very easy for me to stand over here and come and talk trash about our president, talk trash about my opponent. It would be really easy for me to try to rile up emotions in you that I have no interest in riling up. And here's why. Because I believe that humans are good. I believe that most people, unless you have a mental illness, unless there's something really broken, I don't think that anybody wakes up in the morning and says, I will ruin your life. I don't think that happens. I think that every one of us as human beings has some basic things in mind. We want to wake up every morning and figure out how our life is going to have meaning. We want to be productive. And if we do have the blessing of having children, we want to provide our children and our families something better than what we have. It's that easy. It's that easy. And that's what I want to call on each and every one of you today. If there's any emotion that I want to evoke in any of you, is I want to bring you back to who we are as people. Not as Democrats, not as Republicans for those who happen to be Republican or independent. I want to bring us back to the values that we said that we wanted to start this country on. The values of kindness, the values of unity. We cannot afford 4 more years of the crazy train. We can't. There's too many issues that are at stake. The only reason that I'm running for Congress is not because I woke up one day and I thought that I was going to be a congresswoman. Many of you may or may not know my story, but I was born in New York, and they're going to use that, to a very diverse family. I have a black grandparent, an Italian grandparent, a Puerto Rican grandparent, and a white grandparent. So there's like, I was loud on loud is the best way to describe it, right? My family ended up moving to Puerto Rico because my uncle started getting into trouble in New York. And then when my mom found herself in a really negative situation of domestic violence, she ended up moving to Puerto Rico with my grandparents. My mom turned to alcohol and I ended up being raised by my grandparents. And my grandparents were my everything. My grandpa went from working a 3rd shift job so that my grandmother could work in the day and he could babysit me in the mornings without being able to sleep until he was able to get a good job with Fomento Industrial that has a union in Puerto Rico, and that changed their life. They started getting some money and getting, a decent living, and he was able to put his kids through school. And that was the first time that I was able to think, oh, maybe I could be something. And I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was a little girl. I don't know why. Ever since I was little, I wanted to be a doctor. And I found myself with my mom stripping me from my grandparents because they started telling her what to do. They didn't want her drinking, they wanted her to be present. By the time that I was 17, I ended up having a really bad experience with my first boyfriend, and I went to ask my mom for help. She said that I provoked this, so typical Michelle, I wasn't gonna put up with that. I went for a job and I never came back home. And at the age of 17, I was homeless. And it was by the grace of people who have come into my life, like my neighbor Rosa, who didn't have to take care of me, but till today I call her mom. This morning I got a text message, she got the t-shirts of my campaign, and she was like, Mija, I got the t-shirts, thank you. It was like people like Uchi, that when I was homeless and her son brought me into the house, let me sleep in a cot next to her youngest son, and fed me. I'll never forget having that first rice and beans with steak and Coke that I had not had a whole meal because I was eating scraps from my friends. It was like other people like the dean that allowed me to get back into school while I was still a single mom. It was the people that when I came to Kansas to get my education, like Father Pat, I was singing at church, and Father Pat said, Michelle, you don't look okay, we're gonna get you treatment, but then after that, figure out where you wanna go. And my grandpa died of cancer, I had cancer, so I wanted to do cancer research. Wichita State had cancer research. They pulled up $2,000 to send me and my son here. It was people. And this is why I believe in all of you. This is why I believe in the goodness of humankind. Because all of you and the people who have been in my life have shown me that the best is within us. That is not what we've been seeing in the last few years. We're seeing leadership that maybe, just maybe, evokes not the best in us. And we're seeing a rise in things that we have not seen in a long time, or that at least have been around, but they've been quiet. And I'm going to ask of all of you to attack these things with love and with kindness. Because a lot of these individuals are acting on misinformation. In my community, they're being told that I am defunding my police department. After we've given $5 more million to our police department. And it's creating fear. We had somebody do a video saying, imagine going out to dinner and having people attacking you and no police to defend you. These are the things that are being said in our communities. But you know why they're saying these things? They're saying it because they're scared. There is true fear that maybe, just maybe, each and every one of you is going to become an agent of change, and that is going to engage more people, and that our tribes are going to wake up, and they're going to show up, and they're going to vote, and our minorities are going to vote. And that in rural counties, you know what? It's not going to be about Republicans. It's going to be about the people that we want to serve. There's a few things that are at stake this year. Pre-existing conditions are under attack. Make no mistake, the Affordable Health Care Act is nothing but protection from pre-existing conditions. And I vow as your future Congresswoman, God willing, that I will make sure that I will advocate so that they don't eliminate that, so that those lawsuits have no bearing, and that you are able still to get insurance at a decent price without your pre-existing conditions being impacted. I am the mother of a child with severe persistent mental illness and another child that has anxiety. I can tell you that the way that the billing for mental health happens is ridiculous. There is a cap on the number of things, the times that you could see a therapist, and then, a cap on the way that you have to be so ill in order for you to get acute treatment in a hospital. That's ridiculous. It shouldn't be the case. I just came from Atchison, where the hospital in Atchison is the #1 mental health facility. We cannot continue having this crazy cycle and expect people to be healthy both physically and emotionally and be functional in our communities. We cannot allow for prescription medication to be 6 and 7 times more expensive in our country because we refuse to negotiate the costs. And that's a bill that's right now sitting in Chair McConnell's desk that he refuses to touch, which is why I'm not taking any corporate PAC dollars. Our campaign is solely fueled by people, because I believe that people should tell us how we vote, not corporations. We have to work on our infrastructure. Right now, more than ever, we've learned that broadband is not a luxury. Our kids are needing to sit down in front of a computer to do their homework. If you want to have access to telemedicine, guess what you need? Broadband. And even in our urban core, it's so expensive that there's kids that need it the most that don't have access for it. Coming up here is a one-way road both ways. We need to work on our infrastructure. If we want our rural communities to thrive, we need to provide you the infrastructure that you deserve so that the economy can keep growing. Education is a huge issue. We have to stop talking about vouchers for private schools. Look, whoever wants to go to a private school, I'm not against a private school. Part of my childhood was my grandparents and a whole bunch of people pitched in so that I could go to a Catholic school. But that was their choice, right? Now, for the federal government to say that we are going to provide vouchers for private schools smacks in the face of the children that have no other alternative, when we must be fortifying our public school education so that everybody has access to good education. And finally, and certainly not least, our farmers. We need to take care of our farmers. Our farmers have crops that they still have since 2018 that they have not been able to sell. All because we chose as a country to enter into a battle with China without first deciding that we were going to have other people that we could do business with, so that our material, our GDP could not be interrupted. And our farmers are not just feeding Kansans, our farmers feed the world. We need to figure out a way to support our farmers by expanding our trade lines. We cannot continue just waiting on China, because guess what? China's doing business with other countries, and those countries are not going to want to start working with us, and China's not going to continue bringing lines to the US of export and import that they've already done business with other countries with. We have to stand up for our farmers. The last thing that I'll talk about is COVID. Our response to COVID has been so sad. Guys, COVID is a virus. It's not political. I am yet to meet a virus that you go into and you ask it, hey, what's your party? Right? This is a medical implement. And the fact that all of you have one of these just means nothing other than you care enough about your brethren to wear this to protect them. This is not a political statement. That's why I refuse to wear anything that has my name on it. No shame to those of you who do. You look pretty good. But for me, as a political leader, I am trying to make sure that I remind everybody that this is nothing but medical. We have over 180,000 souls that have perished in less than a year. That is the equivalent of Shawnee County, one of the largest counties in this state. It's time for us to stop talking about the virus and the mask and the politicization of it, and start figuring out how we all, from the top level all the way down to the local level, start talking about this as what it is, so that citizens are not confused with regards to the severity of this virus, and so that we can start working together for solutions. Because guess what? This is a medical issue, but it significantly is impacting our economy and our way of life. The way that we fix these things is coming together. It's time that we come together. And make no mistake, it's not gonna be me, because I am not gonna be your hero. So anybody that tells you that they are the solution is lying. I can't do this on my own. If after me speaking and Kirk speaking and your chair speaking, you don't feel empowered and activated to bring in 10 or 20 people to vote, understanding what's at stake, then we failed. There's no heroes. There's only you standing up for your values and for what you believe in. And that is aside from party. I can't do this on my own. I need all of you. We have a chance to win this race. Not just me, but other people like Kirk who believe in the same things that you believe in, that see you as people and not as dollars and profit. We need to come together. And most importantly, we need to talk to our Republican brothers and sisters and remind them that it's okay to be concerned with what's happening in their party. That it's okay not to just support one person. That it's okay to question what's happening right now. And that there's other people that don't care about their party. They care about them. So that's who I am. That's what I'm running. Those are my issues. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of them. Do you guys have questions? All right. No?
My daughter works in Iowa in medical. Now she's out of Haskell. But I have 3 grandchildren that are all 5. So
So you know, yeah, the stories, yeah.
and so,
Well, I'll be around if you guys
How
want.
much of the platform that the Democrats have on, for infrastructure and everything is basically parallel to yours or?
You know, here's what I can do.
If I went to $2 trillion for infrastructure, my belief is there needs to be a lot more than that. And so I don't know, that or the issues that Biden run on parallel to yours.
You know, here's what I can tell you. I think that Vice President Biden is talking about how we are going to build back better. And when you look at what the number one thing is that starts reigniting our economy is road construction and infrastructure work. It's infrastructure work. So I think that what we are going to see after November, God willing, and Vice President Biden then wins the election, is a significant influx of dollars to go back into infrastructure. And when I'm talking about infrastructure, there's going to be dollars to do broadband expansion across the country. There's going to be dollars to continue working on our roads, and we will see an increase. And it's kind of sad because President Trump had promised us a huge infrastructure package that we've never seen.
But how are you going to pay for it? We got $30 trillion deficit fund annually.
And I know,
And if we don't have the COVID back to normal until next year, we got another $3 trillion or more. I mean, that's not
so
counting
here's
the $2 trillion of what the Pelosi, the House Democrats want to add to this year to help everything.
so
Democrats shouldn't talk about taxes, but it's going to have to be.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
You can't talk about taxes because, but the Senate and the representatives and Biden, they can't do it next year, but, when we return to normalcy, hopefully, I don't know, 2022, it's going to have to be a huge tax thing. I know they've cut taxes every time there's been a relief package. They've cut real estate taxes, whatever, It's going to be, you can't talk about it now, but you've got to put in the back of the mind what you're going to have to do. I mean, it needs to be, that's.
It does, and what I was going to say to that is, if you take a look at what the president did, he promised that the lower brackets were not going to be as impacted when he did his tax restructure. I think that anybody here who received their refund in the last 2 years that is like me, that is not a millionaire, saw a significant increase in our tax burden. So I think that part of it is going to be a restructure again, of bringing things back to the way that the bracket was so that we are able to receive a little bit more revenue. And you're right, it's not sexy to talk about taxes, but it's the reality that we
It's
have.
reality, but you can't, as a campaign, say, I'm going to raise the taxes.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
No, but the fact is, the road money is running out because the way we less driving and everything, there's got to be additional revenue coming from someplace, raising your,
through history, it's cost us money to get back. You look at the money we spent on the WPA to get out of that depression.
Right, I mean, if you designated this as for whatever, we have a 4-lane highway between this Nebraska, Kansas, and Topeka that needs to be completed, because of the difficult of passing from state lines clear down to Holtz and everything. And that's necessary. We've lost local lives to Bethel and everything. And that needs to be emphasized, that we need to put money into that and other infrastructures. I got a lot of cool things, I could put money, as a congressman or whatever, needs to be funded to help the nation out.
And I'll tell you, the thing that I'm proud of is the fact that under Governor Kelly, our budget has started to bounce back. And one of the commitments that the governor talked about is not taking away from the bank of KDOT. And a lot of those projects that we've been talking about for a while were not so much stopped, by the president, they were really stopped by the fact that under the leadership of Governor Brownback, a lot of those dollars were pulled away for projects that were going to happen locally. So my hope is that absolutely we will start seeing a local influx. And here's what I am going to tell you. I don't think that in the first year you're going to hear anything about infrastructure. You're going to hear about COVID eradication, about making sure that we invest in vaccines, about making sure that we can keep our kids getting educated. How do we keep our communities safe? And then the year after, like you said, we're going to start talking about how we're going to start tackling our economy in that process. Because I think that that is the biggest challenge that we have right now. I wish that I can talk to you about how we're going to come in with these amazing packages to fix the roads and the infrastructure that need support. But if we don't deal with this virus, then our economy is going to tank even worse, and we can't afford that. Yes, ma'am.
I wonder how many elderly Republicans don't even realize that they're trying to take their Social Security away from them.
There's many. Here's the deal. If you look at the commercials, there's very little substance, and they're pulling at people's emotions. I just recently saw the most recent attack against Dr. Bollier, and it was all about 21-week abortion. That automatically creates an emotion, and you forget about the facts. They don't talk about facts. They only talk about whatever is going to rile up your emotions. So no. So for the person that is sitting at home, elderly, that maybe doesn't have a lot of contact with the outside, all they're concerned about is, oh my God, we're killing lives. I cannot support the person that is killing lives. So no, they are keeping people with the wool over their eyes, which is why it's so important that everybody activates themselves and talks to people about the issues that are at stake. A lot of people don't even know what issues are at stake right now. Yes?
Where do you have, I assume I know where you are, Medicare for All, but more specifically, the public option, where do you have that?
So I am a huge supporter. First of all, I want to make sure that everybody knows that I am one of the most outspoken individuals supporting Medicaid expansion. Medicaid is our public option in our state, and I believe that our public options have to be fortified. I do believe that our unions have worked very hard to have their private insurance. So right now, the best thing that we could do is ensure that the Affordable Health Care Act is available, that we fortify our public option. That way, everybody that can has access. But I do believe that if you are underinsured, that you should have the option of going into the public option, even if you have to pay a little bit into it. So I think that Medicare for All, even though it would eventually be much more economically sound, is not something that we can start pushing for immediately. We still have to work with our Republican brothers and sisters in Congress to show them how this can work. The best thing that we could do right now is ensure that we insure as many people as possible. And the best way to do that is ensuring that those dollars that are there for Medicaid expansion, which is that public option for us, is there, and that we fortify that, while we are able to ensure that we still have coverage for our pre-existing conditions. Because that starts helping people move into that pool a little bit quicker.
What else do you have for?
I don't bite. They fed me. All right.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I am so proud of the strong women that we have that are already in office and the ones that are running. I am no way a male chauvinist, but I think the women that we have women have so many roles. And I think our women are really listening and really know the story. And what I love about you and others, you've walked the walk. You have that experience, and people will relate to that. Just listening to you right now, I mean, I'm more excited and energized than I have been for a while. So thanks for being here, and I mean, I feel hope, which sometimes, you don't feel out there. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, thank you for having me here, and like I said, I'll stick around for a little while, and if you want to pull me aside and ask me anything, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Just be aware, I will give you an answer, even if it's I don't know.